guys, it's Elysia English. I'm coming at you with another DIY. Today I'm going to show you how to make your own do-it-yourself message board. Step 1 is to measure and cut your board for the dimensions that you'd like for your board. I'm using a 16 by 20. Step 2 is to sand any rough edges you might have got cutting plywood. When you cut plywood with a circular saw, you're going to get one rough side and then you'll get a clean side. You just want to make sure there's no splinters. Step 3 is to paint the background the color of your choice. I chose a soft gray for my background. I'd like to use some darker tiles on mine and I'd like them to really stand out. For this project, you want to also paint the edges of your board. Step number 4 is to start pre-framing your board. You're not going to actually adhere the frame yet, just going to cut it to size. So I'm using 1x2s, and I usually like to start with my top and my bottom first. And I'm going to measure the length of my board. And I want to make sure it's butted up really tight to the edge. Make a mark so I know where to cut. And I'm going to use the other end of my board and do the top as well. Next, I'm going to do my sides, and in order to actually make my exact measurement, I'm going to just lay it beside and make my mark. It's just a little bit easier, and make a line. Step number 5 is to stain your frame. We're going to do this now so it can dry while we're working on the rest of our project. I'm using my favorite color stain, which is Provincial by Minwax, and a blue shop rag to apply. Step 6 is to create your ledges you're going to use for your message board. And I'm going to use 1x2s again and cut them to 14 inches. And I'm going to create 6 for the size of my board. Yours might be fewer or more depending on how big you've made your board. I'm just making a mark at 14. I'm marking every 14 inches on my longer stick of 1x2. Step 7 is to paint your ledges. I'm choosing to make my ledges the same color as my background. I'd like my tiles to be the focal point, so I want these kind of just to blend into the background. I'm going to paint all the sides. I'm going to let this side dry and then flip them over to be able to get to the other sides. I don't like to have any waste in the shop. I'm going to use some leftover pieces of 1x2 to make the next part of the project. I'm going to cut these scrap pieces into 1.5 lengths to make my tiles. Rather than measuring 1.5 inches a whole bunch of times, I'm going to make myself a stencil. So I'm going to measure 1.5 inches on a scrap piece and make myself a template to trace. Now that I'm done step 8, which was cutting all of my tiles, I'm now going to give them a quick sanding before I apply paint. I've put a bunch of my tiles into a cardboard box just so that I can spray paint them. I thought spray painting them would be a lot faster than painting all of them individually by hand. So I'm going to do a coat and then flip them over to make sure I get all the sides covered. Step number 9 is now adhering your frame to your board. I'm going to use my stain frames that are now dry and I'm going to line them up exactly where I want them on my outer edge of my board. I'm going to use my brad nailer now to attach my bottom to my sides, making sure that my hands are out of the way. Don't shoot a nail into your hand. And I'm just going to fire one in and keep it in place. Now that I just have my frame all ready, this just helps me keep my shape in place. And I'm going to then take my painted side face down, lay it on top, and line it up with my frame I created. Make sure all 4 corners are perfectly lined up. And then I'm going to now use the hard surface to nail down into my frame with the brad nailer. Step 10 is now adhering your ledges using wood glue. I love my Gorilla wood glue, and I'm going to use it again for this project. Using my Silhouette Cameo, I've created some stencils of all of the letters of the alphabet. I'm going to spell out whatever words I'd like for my board and make a lot of extras so that I can make inspirational messages later on my board. So I'm going to use a pin and I'm going to weed out all the letter shapes that I do not want. I'm using a little piece of transfer tape. So now I'm going to transfer my letters onto my tile. Using a little makeup sponge and some black paint, I'm going to sponge on my stencils. My stencil was just over a little bit further, so I got a little bit on the side there, so I'm just going to touch that up. And there you go. So I have my first word, DIY. Thanks so much for watching my DIY. I hope this video inspires you to make your own do-it-yourself message board. Thanks so much for watching my channel. Please paint that like button blue and don't forget to subscribe for future videos.